Greetings, folks, and welcome to the Author's Guide to Crowdfunding, a step-by-step, author-focused walkthrough of the crowdfunding process to set your next campaign up for success. I'm just going to double-check everything to make sure it looks just right. All right, I have the thumbs up. And thank you for being here with us today. As always, we will be sending out a replay of today's session to your inbox tomorrow, so don't worry too much about scribbling down copious amounts of notes, though I know that some of you can't resist, and that's fine. Along with that replay, we're sending everyone a PDF copy of our crowdfunding guide for writers. It's a written version of some of the information we're covering here and more, so be on the lookout for that, hitting your email tomorrow. My name is Scott Donovan. I'm a publishing consultant here with FriesenPress. I've been here for 7.5 years, and my role is to meet with authors and discuss their projects and see what type of publishing is a great fit for them and support them through every part of the process, including crowdfunding. Our moderator for today is Brian. Brian's the head of marketing at our company. He will also moderate the Q&A at the end of the session. And he is joining us from Ontario while I'm here in Victoria, BC. A lot of people say to me, but you guys are headquartered in Manitoba. That's true. That's where our big printer is in southern Manitoba. Our publishing teams are split up between Victoria, Calgary, and Winnipeg. So please make sure that you pop your questions in the chat window as we go. We will get to as many as we can, and those we don't answer on air will be followed up with afterwards. Questions don't have to all be about crowdfunding. I'll be happy to answer any book or publishing related questions on your mind, and I expect we'll have a comfortable amount of time for that. All right. If you've ever dreamed of self-publishing a professional grade book, but found yourself wondering how you were going to pay for it, then you're in the right place. For many writers, those costs become the biggest obstacle between a finished manuscript and a published book. They have the passion, they have the story, and they have the determination. They don't necessarily have several $1,000s readily available to invest in publishing. The good news is that there is another option. Today, we're going to explore crowdfunding, not simply as a way to raise money, but as a way to build momentum around your book before it's ever published. By the end of this presentation, you'll understand exactly what crowdfunding is, why it has become such a powerful tool for independent authors, what successful crowdfunding campaigns have in common, and how you can begin planning a campaign that not only funds your book, but also helps build an audience of readers who are genuinely excited about your success. The important thing to remember is that crowdfunding isn't reserved for celebrities or authors with hundreds of thousands of followers. Every year, first-time authors successfully crowdfund books because they understand one simple principle. People don't support books, they support stories, ideas, and the people behind them. Today's presentation is designed to show you how to become one of those success stories. And if you're feeling excited or overwhelmed about the possibilities of crowdfunding, but aren't sure where to begin, just know that our consulting team can help you build a strategy that sets your campaign up for success. And I just want to share, as well that we see crowdfunding in lots of different places where fiction is shared. I'm a big fan of audio dramas. And many of my favorite audio dramas are funded with crowdfunding, using exactly the techniques that we're going to show you here today. But let's start at the beginning. What exactly is crowdfunding? Simply put, crowdfunding is another term for online fundraising. Crowdfunding is the process in which a group or individual runs a time-bound and goal-based funding project called a crowdfunding campaign. The goal is to raise enough money to sustainably cover the basic costs of a project or venture. In this case, we're talking about the professional publication of a book. Campaigns are run on what's called a crowdfunding platform, such as Kickstarter or Indiegogo. A creator, in this case, the author, sets up their campaign, timeline, and fundraising goal, telling the story of their project and how the funds will be used to achieve their goals. Support is generated by marketing and word of mouth, sharing the link in your campaign with your network and hopefully beyond. In exchange for their support, supporters are offered enticing rewards by the campaign owner as incentives. Only when a campaign has been fully funded does money actually exchange hands between the creator and the supporters. So it's a win-win scenario for everyone. Crowdfunding has the potential to greatly reduce the financial risk to a creator by spreading the burden of production to a large crowd. Many well-known books have been crowdfunded, including the Friesen's printed Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls. Great project that you should check out. Crowdfunding provides writers with the capital they need to produce and market a high-quality book, but there are a number of other excellent reasons why readers and writers should consider crowdfunding. So market testing. Crowdfunding is a great way to test the market for a book. If the book crowdfunds successfully, it gives a writer a solid indicator of the market of those willing to purchase their book. Conversely, if the book doesn't meet its crowdfunding goal, there may be opportunities for the writer to improve their pitch or refine their incentives. Either outcome results in valuable test marketing that you can learn from. Building an engaged audience. So another reason crowdfunding matters is that it can help writers build an audience. A fully funded book has a crowd of contributors, literally invested in the writer's success. The writer has spent their time engaging with that audience, sharing updates, and developing their personal brand. Then, when the writer writes their next book, a fan base has already been established. In tandem with establishing your audience is earning early book sales. Selling print and ebook copies of your book is a common initial funding reward. If your goal is to recoup your investment and/or make money from your book, crowdfunding can fast-track your ability to do this. And because your overall campaign is designed to cover your book's production costs, or a significant portion of them, more on that later, the books you sell post-publication will bring you much closer to that break-even figure, if not outright profitability. More great books and happier readers. So crowdfunding increases the number of quality books published each year. Books that would have otherwise gone unread now have a path of reaching the public, and unpublished books can now afford to get professional help they need to be released as a higher quality product than they would have been otherwise. Crowdfunding can be extremely rewarding. If successful, a writer receives a full list of invested readers along with a fully funded book. They also retain complete creative control over the book project, which can't be said for the traditionally published equivalent. Making that happen, however, takes work. First, the writer needs a place online where they can send people to support their campaign. This place is called a crowdfunding platform. As mentioned, Kickstarter and Indiegogo are two popular platforms that we see most authors using. A crowdfunding platform has all the necessary tools needed to run a campaign. Be sure to read the rules and eligibility requirements of each platform carefully to ensure you're abiding by their conditions. Most campaign pages have a similar layout. A campaign name or title, a tagline, which is a 1 or 2 sentence description of the campaign in order to draw in supporters, a campaign image and/or video, something that represents the theme of the campaign, extra information like the writer's profile, the campaign's goal and deadline, social media links, etc. And rewards. This is really important. At least 5 to 7 rewards, starting as low as $1 and going as high as $5,000. A campaign summary, so the description of the book project and why it's being crowdfunded. A campaign page should draw people into the story and entice them with exciting rewards. However, it's the campaign owner's job to bring people to the page. And this means asking friends and family for support, getting active online, sharing the news, and using as many creative means as possible to bring people to the page. We'll talk more about marketing later on in the presentation. Now, I just want to add a note here on GoFundMe. So GoFundMe is not a recommended crowdfunding platform for authors because it is primarily geared towards charitable initiatives and emergencies and lacks the rewards infrastructure of our most typically recommended platform, which is Kickstarter. The standard funding structure on most crowdfunding platforms is called fixed funding. Fixed funding means that if you fall short of your goal, you don't collect any funds. While that may seem harsh, fixed funding actually helps produce the strong sense of urgency that's so important to a successful campaign. Both the campaign owner and the contributor know that the entire campaign would fail if it falls even a few dollars short of its goal. This can act as a strong motivator for everyone involved. The main takeaway from this section is to remember that your publishing budget and your crowdfunding goal are not the same number. Your crowdfunding goal has to include your publishing budget, but it must also account for the cost of reward fulfillment, credit card fees, and the crowdfunding platform's commission. Determining this number may seem daunting at first, but the math can be broken down into 4 simple steps. Let's do them here together. Step 1 is setting your publishing budget. So before you can set your crowdfunding goal, you'll need to think carefully about the publishing budget. Will you need to take time off work to finish or finalize your manuscript? How much will the professional editing and design of your book cost? How will you promote and market it? Do some research to figure out these costs. You can call us at FriesenPress. We'll also help you build your budget. Step 2 is to add reward fulfillment costs to your original budget. So now that you know your budget, you can figure out your crowdfunding goal. As an example, let's imagine that you have a publishing budget of $2,800. Based on our research on crowdfunding campaigns, you'll want to add about 20% of your original budget for fulfillment. So that math works out to $3,500, which is $3,500 times 20%, and overall $4,200. Step 3 is to account for crowdfunding fees. And so that counts for commission that they receive for hosting the campaign, as well as credit card fees. And here's where it gets a little tricky. You now know that you need $4,200 to be transferred into your account at the end of your campaign. And that way you can cover reward fulfillment and your publishing costs. But you still have to consider the card fees and the platform's commission. And so with every dollar that someone contributes to your campaign, the crowdfunding platform will take a percentage before you see that money. So before you can calculate your crowdfunding goal, you need to figure out how much you'll actually receive from each dollar contributed. Since we know that most crowdfunding platforms' fees are at least 5%, and payment processor fees are also 5% on average, we can do this math quite easily. So for each dollar, you're minusing 0.05 and 0.05 and that equals 0.9 or 90 cents on the dollar. It's a good idea to look up these numbers on your chosen platform before doing your own calculation. Kickstarter's Campaign Builder has a helpful calculator tool you can use to check your work. So with step 4, the last step is easy. Divide your desired budget, including fulfillment amount, so that's $4,200, by the dollar amount you take home for every dollar contributed, which is 90 cents, and you'll know what your crowdfunding goal should be. 4,200 divided by 90 cents works out to $4,700 approximately. And you're done. In this example, your crowdfunding goal should be about $4,700. If you want to receive enough funds to publish a high quality book, fulfill your rewards, and maintain your original budget. Also, don't forget to be creative with your goal. For our example above, if you personally set $2,000 aside for your publishing project, you can lower your goal to fund the remaining $2,700. This protects your personal seed money from the crowdfunding fees outlined above. And there are a few different ways to do this. And again, it's part of my role here and part of the role of the publishing consultants at FriesenPress to help you build this. Excuse me, one moment. So developing your message. Think of your messaging as your campaign's packaging. It will shape everything from the elements on your campaign page to the kind of emails you send out to your audience. Think about your campaign's core message. What is the glue that holds your campaign together? How are you going to persuade your audience to contribute to your campaign? These are the first questions you should be asking when developing your messaging. Next, consider your audience. What do they do? What do they like to read? And how old are they? What are their hobbies? Create a mind map for your answers. This will also allow you to keep track of your different audiences. Once you have a firm grasp on your potential contributors, you can start putting together a core message for your campaign that will appeal to the people you're trying to reach. If you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm fairly new to marketing, no problem. This is a great place to cut your teeth on this stuff because these are the same steps you're going to go through in marketing your book once it's published. So you want to include details about yourself and or your project that will spark the interests of these different groups. For example, is this a memoir that focuses on a unique experience? Is your book trying to teach something? Is there a special detail about your life that will appeal to your audiences? What is unique about you, your book, and your campaign? Tell your audiences the story behind your book. Let's talk about creating rewards. So one of the objections I've heard around running a crowdfunding campaign is the fear of your contributors then having an undue stake in what goes into the book. And I think that's a very real fear, but it's countered by offering these rewards. So it's not just incentive, but these rewards are maybe like a mental or emotional boundary for the writer, knowing that this is transactional and the book always remains your project. I think that's important to mention here. Great rewards can turn interested readers into enthusiastic supporters. Offer a mix of creative, book-related rewards that appeal to different budgets while making contributors feel like they're part of your publishing journey. Start by thinking about your audience. If you're crowdfunding a book, your readers are most interested in the book itself. So build your reward tiers around it. Begin with simple, low-cost items such as ebooks, paperbacks, or bookmarks. These can be bundled into higher value packages. Then add exclusive perks like signed editions early drafts, behind the scenes content, or opportunities to name a character. Think outside the box too. As contribution levels increase, so should the value of the rewards. Supporters should always feel like they're getting more than they'd receive by waiting to buy the book after publication. I know personally, I am really into the behind the scenes aspects of projects that I support. That has my vote. Some other tips for strong rewards is you want to offer rewards for a range of budgets, meet your readers where they're at. You want to keep rewards relevant to your book and campaign. You want to include exclusive or behind the scenes content whenever possible. You want to focus on high value, low cost items to maximize your fundraising. Keep shipping to a minimal when possible. Bundle this cost into the reward pricing, or note that you'll charge for shipping after the campaign closes. There are services too that help with this. One of them is, it's called Backers Kit. And if you're getting into more expensive sort of physical rewards and shipping, that sort of service can help. For premium tiers, you also want to consider unique experiences that only you can offer. You want to build reward levels strategically. So when setting contribution levels, think about what each reward includes. Consider how they'll help you reach your funding goal. For example, if your highest reward is only $20, you'll need 500 backers to raise $10,000. Offering higher value tiers gives your biggest supporters opportunities to contribute more, making your goal much more achievable. Create a variety of reward levels that appeal to different types of supporters while ensuring your campaign can realistically reach its target. Excuse me. The example here is from FriesenPress author Aaliyah Taves's Kickstarter for Still Your Heart Will Grow. This is 3 of the 6 options in her reward structure. You can see here she distinguishes different types of supporters, from the single reader early bird to the collector with a signed hardcover, and the community bundle for the resource center and obstetrics or midwifery offices and community groups. I will practice that word and I'll never make that mistake again. Marketing your crowdfunding campaign. And marketing is maybe the part that writers feel least comfortable with when they come to us, whether it's crowdfunding or the book itself. So building your campaign page is only half the battle. You'll also need to drive people to it. Here are a few strategies for doing so. Build anticipation before you launch. So tease your campaign in the weeks leading up to the launch with introductory videos, countdown, excerpts, cover art. This way, supporters are primed from day one. You want to leverage your community. So these are your social media followers, writing groups that many of us participate in, friends, family, and partner with aligned communities connected to your book's subject matter. One that comes to mind is I had an author who published a book about historic hotels in Nova Scotia. There are many communities on Facebook where people share stories and photos of time spent at some of these historic locations. It was a perfect fit for him during his crowdfunding campaign. Share your why and not just your ask. People are more likely to back a meaningful story than simply pre-order a book. Take your audience behind the scenes. Share about your writing process, campaign milestones, and the journey to publication to make supporters feel invested. People are really interested in writing and publishing. This is something very interesting you're going on to do. So taking video, sharing pictures, these things are very enticing to a lot of people. Successful campaigns are promoted consistently throughout their run. With funding progress, book updates, spotlights on your high-end rewards, and more. Keep talking about it. Remember, crowdfunding is as much a marketing campaign as much as a fundraising campaign. The more excitement and visibility you create, the more likely people are to support and share your project. Do you want to learn more? Marketing your book is a topic worthy of its own presentation. For a deeper dive into building your audience and promoting your work, check out our Book Marketing for New Authors webinar on our YouTube channel. And I got to say, our marketing team does a fantastic job of demystifying many topics of the publishing process and of this industry, and even writing itself. And so whether it's on our socials, our YouTube channel, or our Publishing Insights blog, there is tons of free and very real information there to support you. So now that we've covered strategies on how to reach an audience, let's talk about how to build and organize one so you have a strong foundation before your campaign launches. Building your audience list. So don't rely solely on the crowdfunding platform. That's not their job. A common myth is that simply launching on a popular platform will bring enough supporters. In reality, successful campaigns are driven by the audience you bring with you. Social media can help you amplify your campaign, but it shouldn't be your primary strategy. Organize your audience. So create a spreadsheet to track names, contact information, and contribution status and notes. Divide your contacts into 3 groups. First wave, so these are your closest supporters, family and friends who can be counted on to contribute on launch day. Aim for 20 or 30 people. A strong first day builds momentum and encourages others to join. Your second wave, so these are acquaintances, colleagues, readers, and social media connections. Aim for 2 to 3 times as many contacts as your first wave, knowing not everyone will contribute. Your third wave, so these are people who don't know you yet, such as bloggers, influencers, online communities like that Facebook group regarding historic hotels, and media contacts related to your book's topic. Leverage your LinkedIn. Research and build a targeted list of 20 to 40 relevant contacts. Focus on quality over quantity to avoid spamming. Contact your audience. Prepare your outreach before launch so you can focus on promoting your campaign once it's live. Before launch, personally ask your first wave supporters to contribute on day 1. And this is easy to do. These are the folks that know you. Presumably they love or like you. Get them on board. Email them on launch day with your campaign announcement and link, and ask them to share it with their network. That part's really important. Shortly after launch, email your second wave. Ask them to share it with their network. And by then, they will see some of the contributions from your first wave. That's important. Mid-campaign, you're going to send an update reminding supporters about your progress and the rewards. And in the final days, send a last call email to encourage final contributions. Now, throughout the whole campaign, you're going to be reaching out to those third wave contacts in particular, and you're going to continue promoting your campaign through your marketing channels. You want to get in front of the third wave more often because they're going to need a little more convincing to contribute. You're going to track every interaction in your spreadsheet so you can follow up appropriately and stay organized throughout your campaign. Here are some crowdfunding success stories from actual FriesenPress authors to illustrate what we've covered in this presentation. So, the first one is Laura McLeod's Foraging for Carbs. Her campaign is a great example of how strong visuals and personal backstory can work together to create an engaging crowdfunding page. And I got to say, her title is dynamite too. I think Foraging for Carbs lets you know what the book is about. And if you're anything like me, you get excited when you hear the word carbs. So from the moment visitors arrive, they're greeted by mouth-watering photography, warm colors, and a clean, inviting layout that immediately communicates the quality and personality of the project. These visuals make the project feel tangible and help potential backers imagine what the finished book would look like. The campaign builds on that strong first impression with a compelling personal story. Laura explains how her beloved bakery was forced to close during the COVID-19 pandemic and how the cookbook will preserve its cherished recipes and memories for years to come. Combined with her experience as a pastry chef, this personal backstory gives supporters a meaningful reason to contribute. Rather than simply asking people to buy a cookbook, the campaign invites them to help preserve a piece of the community's history, creating an emotional connection that encourages people to back the project. There's also something here that I really like in that the book has a local focus. And, over and over again, I'm reminding writers and authors that the more local a book is, the better it does, because you have a built-in audience here. And she does this by the legacy nature of this project regarding the bakery. Well done. Next, Aaliyah Taves's Still Your Heart Will Grow. So Aaliyah's campaign is a strong example of emotional storytelling as the primary driver of engagement. Rather than relying on technical explanations or a highly defined niche, the campaign leans into tone, feeling, and personal reflection. The title itself sets the emotional expectation, and the campaign continues that thread through its language and page. So what makes this effective is that it invites the audience into an emotional experience rather than a purely informational one. Even without knowing every detail of the book, potential backers can understand the emotional territory it occupies. So growth, reflection, healing, and introspection. This broad emotional accessibility allows the campaign to connect with a wider audience who may not share the same niche interests, but do share similar emotional experiences or values. It's the universality of this that she takes advantage of. And I think that that's really a lesson that we can all learn from in terms of marketing, that even if our subject is very niche, like historic hotels, that nostalgic feeling was the great appeal that the author took advantage of in marketing. Our third example here is Sean Sewell's BC Spirits and Cocktail book. So this campaign also benefits from the naturally visual appeal of its subject matter. Throughout the page, high quality photography showcases cocktails, ingredients, and the overall aesthetic of the book, giving contributors a clear sense of what they're supporting. Together, the creator's on-camera presence and the polished presentation make the campaign feel authentic, professional, and credible. Qualities that can make all the difference when asking people to invest in a creative project before it actually exists. Sean Sewell's BC Spirits Cocktail book campaign is a strong example of how authority and credibility can inspire confidence in potential backers. From the outset, the campaign positioned Sean as an experienced voice in the world of cocktails and spirits. I can confirm that he is, making it clear that this is a book created by someone with genuine expertise. So rather than relying solely on the written campaign description, the project reinforces that expertise through a personal campaign video that allows visitors to see and hear directly from the creator. His passion, knowledge, and professionalism help establish trust in both the project and his ability to deliver it. So what do these campaigns have in common? Although each of these campaigns take a slightly different approach, they all succeed by building confidence with potential backers. Foraging for Carbs captures attention through enticing photography and a personal backstory of preserving a beloved bakery. Still Your Heart Will Grow creates an emotional connection through heartfelt storytelling, inviting readers to invest in the journey behind the book. BC Spirit's cocktail book establishes trust by showcasing the creator's expertise through a polished campaign video and a professional presentation that reinforces his credibility. Together, these campaigns demonstrate an important lesson about crowdfunding. There is no single formula for success. Regardless of the approach, each campaign clearly and transparently demonstrates its value, builds trust with the audience, and gives contributors a reason to feel excited about being part of bringing the project to life. Before we get to the Q&A portion of the presentation, we are now opening the window for our free evaluation giveaway. And if you scan this QR code or visit the link that I'm going to ask Brian to share in the chat, that will enter you into this. And so the question, of course, is what is an editor's manuscript evaluation? So an editor's manuscript evaluation is a complete read-through of your manuscript, and your FriesenPress editor will provide an essay of feedback based on customized notes that you do with your publishing consultant, someone like me. Our editors are some of the best in the industry. They pass an exam that we created with a former president of the Editors Association of Canada. They come to us with their own backgrounds in education, of course, but then they train to specialize in specific genres. We're lucky enough to be a company that's been around to be the size that believes in specialization. Our editors specialize in books just like yours. So the feedback in an editor's manuscript evaluation can speak to holistic pieces like structure or character development, as well as more granular elements of style and prose. Now, don't confuse this with book coaching. FriesenPress also offers book coaching, but the editor's manuscript evaluation provides a roadmap for a completed draft through a journey of revisions and or subsequent editing. So make sure you scan that. This is a value of at least $500, and it can be customized to your word count from there. We're going to throw it to Brian to lead us in the Q&A. He will have a bunch of questions lined up. If you have any questions at all about writing, crowdfunding, or publishing in general, please drop them in the chat window, and we'll have some fun. And before getting into that Q&A, I'll just plug my information here. So again, my name is Scott Donovan. I'm a publishing consultant at FriesenPress. I've been here for 7.5 years. I'm also a university student at the University of Victoria, doing a Bachelor of Social Work there. And my information, you can find it here below. I'd love to meet you, learn about your project, and help you navigate this.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Scott. That was a great presentation. So much to cover. And boy, what a great overlap with self-publishing and crowdfunding. They're kind of like PB and J, just allowing people to tell more stories. That's what we're all about here. And yeah, great stuff. Also, sorry if we triggered anyone with the math. I know I felt that personally. But I apologize. A lot of us are writers here. We're creatives. We don't want to do any of that stuff. But thank you for bearing with us through the math. And just wanted to say too, thank you so much for all the great feedback so far. We've got a lot of thank yous, and we're really grateful to do these kinds of presentations and kind of dig into some big topics that lend themselves well to this sort of format. So thank you for all the great feedback. And we got a lot of questions here. Keep them coming, please. And we have someone in the chat named Avard, and Avard has been lighting the chat up with a ton of good questions. So we're going to try to spread the love around, but there's so many good ones from Avard. First one is about platforms. If there's a benefit to one platform or another, what do you think on that, Scott?
Yeah, great question. You know, it's interesting because when crowdfunding was new, we sort of saw a couple of names come out that were looking to become the big brand in that space. If someone was putting me to task, I would say Kickstarter has probably emerged as the winner in that space. I'm always a fan of underdogs too, though, so I think Indiegogo is a great second choice. Explore both of them and see which one is the best fit for you. I think most often we probably see Kickstarter. It's probably the most recognized of
Yeah, anecdotally for me as well, I did some poking around before the webinar to try to build my own campaign on some of these platforms. I personally found Kickstarters to be very impressive, easy to use, clear, which, you want that stuff kind of taken care of when you're doing something as complicated as a crowdfunding project. So it's just my 2 cents of my own there. So wanted to, and actually, I'll tee you up for this, Scott, and I can help with answering this one too. But does this comes from Patrick? Does this process work for authors outside Canada? I'm in Kenya, and hi, Patrick from Kenya. But any thoughts on that, Scott?
Yes, hello, Patrick. Thanks for joining us. Um, one of the fantastic things about social media is that you can target an audience anywhere. So not only are you able to fundraise on a platform from Kenya, you can also target potential donors who would be interested in your subject matter anywhere in the world. And it's an interesting fact that we've had authors here in Canada write books for authors or for readers in Ireland, and they're able to focus a whole marketing campaign overseas, right? And so I would think that's no different for you in running your crowdfunding campaign. That's a really great question.
Yeah, I think, again, I did a little bit of poking around too. I think you're going to want to check the platform eligibility with, there may be platforms that work, they're more Kenya specific, but places like Kickstarter or Indiegogo may not allow folks in Kenya to run campaigns there. There's, I think, some red tape with money collection and things like that, being legislation based kind of practices. So just, as you're setting yourself up or going down this road, definitely a good idea to look on the platform itself to see if there's any kind of gotchas with that. So just wanted to note that as well. We'll do one more from Avard, and Avard asked, why would Kickstarter be better than Patreon, which is a platform, for those who don't know, that is a month-over-month kind of subscription-based service for creatives and authors. So maybe some different goals there, but did you have any thoughts on that, Scott?
Oh, I have so many thoughts on that, actually. Do both. That's my advice. There's an audio drama, and I'm just going to plug it here, the Lovecraft Investigations, that successfully did this with a huge Kickstarter campaign that raised over £200,000, and then they also have a Patreon, and so being a part of that certainly keeps people in the loop. The only detraction I could see to that, and I'm not sure if Patreon does, I'm not sure what the reward system is like, and I know that they're kind of mostly centered around sort of long-term ecosystem presence and having someone really small donations over time is sort of their goal. I think it's a great tool for building your audience and keeping things rolling. I'm not personally sure how well they work for like a larger donation and reward system. Certainly something to explore there. I'm a big fan of doing both.
Yeah, great answer. I think it really does kind of depend on your goal too and what you're able to offer. I think for a short-term project, you want to think more on that Kickstarter, Indiegogo side, but for a longer-term thing, yeah, and as Scott says, doing both could potentially be an option too. So it's a great question, Navar. Got a question here from Julia, and Julia asks, can you give some examples of providing behind-the-scenes content that came up on the presentation?
Yeah, I sure can. It's funny, like writing has this sort of romantic reputation, right? Of you're going to be at a retreat, right, which is in this beautiful location, and someone delivers your meals to you, and you spend all day writing, and the birds are fluttering in the window, coming in with ideas, right? And I tell authors, like, show your audience what a grind this was. Show them how many times you changed a paragraph. Show them, you can do this by way of video and screen capturing. Show them a whole page and different drafts of that. Show them what it's like trying to make content for social media, right? Like the bloopers for these things are hilarious. Anything that demystifies it, pulls your audience in. And you can do it with infographics, even just researching publishing companies, right? Like, there's only 300,000 of them out there. So you can make like funny videos of what it's like speaking with some of these people and trying to suss out what real information is, and keep it light, keep it humorous, and think about all the questions that you have right now that you're answering with this research. Those are the questions that people who are contributors and who would be interested in behind the scenes stuff have. And so answering those in a fun way creates great content.
Yeah, at risk of sounding super cringy and cliche, being yourself, it's a great option. So find that authenticity, and that really goes a long way for sure. Got a question here from Aniela. And Aniela asks, for a first-time children's author with an existing audience still growing, when is the right time to launch a crowdfunding campaign? Is there a recommended audience size or engagement level? And I like this question because we've really been focusing on first-time author in this presentation, and maybe not everyone is of that kind of background. So do you have any thoughts on when the right time is to launch a campaign if you already have a growing audience?
And so I just want to, this was Aniela?
Aniela, yeah. That's right.
Thanks for the question, Aniela. Without knowing the details of your existing project and your audience, I can't be too specific, but it always helps to have a milestone, right? I tell authors to focus on having a reason to talk about things. Maybe it's your birthday, maybe it's the anniversary of your last publication, maybe it's a certain amount of, you reach a milestone in terms of the number of followers you have on social media. Now that's one idea. On the other hand, if you need to get this thing up there, find something. Where's the moon at in the celestial horoscope aspect, right? Like find some reason to bring it up, and people will connect with it. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that, Brian? That's a great question.
Yeah, you know what? I've seen some popular authors, like a Joanna Penn comes to mind, using crowdfunding as a pre-order vehicle as well. So that might be something you could think about, whether it's, maybe you don't necessarily need your project funded if the book is happening. You could perhaps just use that to create some marketing buzz as and have some fun with a book launch through crowdfunding that way. But yeah, I don't necessarily have like a hard and fast number there, but I think it's a great question, and I liked your answer as well. Yeah. Just wanted to address a question from Jackie here. Is the information from the webinar available in a printable form? Couldn't write fast enough. Yes, we're going to be sending a replay of this conversation tomorrow, along with our PDF crowdfunding guide. So it's got a lot of what we talked about and a lot more. So you can catch up that way, Jackie, and goes for everyone else. So be on the lookout in your inbox tomorrow for that. Well, because we said that we would tackle questions weren't crowdfunding specific, I wanted to get to this one from Yamini. And Yamini asks, how do we disclose the use of AI in our work, and how does that affect copyright in Canada? Now, it's a hard pivot from where we've been, but we get a lot of AI questions these days, so it's a good opportunity to address that here.
We sure do, and it's a bit of a moving target. So the answer I give you today could change tomorrow, and that's a really important thing to know about AI. The rule that the guidelines we're following is that if you're using generative AI in the content, it has to be disclosed. And I think my opinion on it is probably the best place to do that is to cover, right? Like I wouldn't try to hide anything. But the real challenge, though, is using copyright. And I'll back up actually a little bit. I realized what I just said. So generative AI would be if you were actually feeding information into AI and it was creating paragraph by paragraph writing for you. Using AI as a tool for editing or even outlining while you're doing the writing yourself, I think that's pretty common now. I think that's the right way to use it. I think it's a great way to use it. Maybe not the right way. I think it's a great way to use it. I use it for outlining myself. If you are using it for generative AI, and there may be some reasons as to why that's a good idea, I believe that disclosing it is the right thing to do, and I think that we're starting to see requirements for that crop up. And in terms of copyright, the challenge there is you cannot copyright work as your own if it was created by generative AI. Those are the rules right now. And so that does have ramifications in terms of protecting your book out there. The other thing worth noting is that while at this time distributors and retailers are carrying generative AI content, that could change at any time. At any time, it is only governed by their own rules and regulations and their own fine print and service agreements. So there are some inherent risks there in using generative AI, particularly to create content. Brian, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think you covered that really well, especially that it is changing. But yeah, that's really where things are at right now. So I think that's a comprehensive answer. Yeah, and thank you for the question, Yamini. Just wanted to mention too, we're already approaching our top of the hour here, but please don't let that stop you from offering questions. We will follow up with you after the fact. We'll have someone on our team reach out and make sure that your questions are answered, and hopefully we can provide some help and value to you. One real quick one I can maybe knock out myself here is from Jane Michelle, who says, Kickstarter's a fixed model. What do you think about Indiegogo, which has a flexible model, and can you use more than one at a time? I actually just learned that I believe in the fall, Indiegogo is now fully fixed as well. So Kickstarter and Indiegogo are now doing fully fixed funding. That was news to me. I thought the same, but they put a blog post out basically saying, kind of echoing some of the things we talked about with fixed funding being that more likely to be funded, right? Because if people say like, oh, this $4,000 goal is at $1,500, I'll kick them $5. They're getting that money anyway. I don't have any skin in the game. But if you want to support more psychologically, I think they find that people want to support more when they know it's all or nothing. So, and could you use more one at a time? I don't think you'd want to divert people's attention across two different platforms. I think you'd want to be on one, put all your efforts towards there. Otherwise, people could get confused, and neither might be funded. So, wanted to note that one. From Glenn here, there are numerous types of editing services. In what order should the services typically be procured/used by the author? Is the manuscript evaluation or editorial assessment the right place to start?
Great question. Yeah, so we offer 5 different types of editing, and not every manuscript or not every type of editing is appropriate for every manuscript. The editor's manuscript evaluation is not only a part of each pathway, it is also available as a standalone service. And someone in my role, a publishing consultant, could help you make that decision to maybe use it as a standalone. And what comes out of it, as discussed, is a roadmap for subsequent editing. And that roadmap, by the way, is informational purpose to empower you to make your decision about what package or what type of editing to pursue subsequently. And so, sometimes people come to us and they're looking for developmental editing. They're looking for holistic editing. In other cases, people come to us and they've been through multiple rounds with external editors or beta readers. And so now they're ready to just get granular on the mechanics of writing itself. Sometimes we can forecast that from the beginning quite comfortably. If it's not comfortable, doing a standalone evaluation is a great way to take the guesswork out of it. Great question.
100%. And great answer. Wanted to go back to Avard. Got a great question from Avard here. And it's actually gives me an opportunity to plug our next webinar for August. Avard asks, what's the best way to build a brand around a first-time author to keep potential readers invested and interested? We only have 5 minutes left, and that's a huge topic, so I'll plug August. August webinar is going to be all about creating your author platform, digital foundations, kind of building an author brand. So it's a huge thing. So you'll get a link to register for that in your email tomorrow, along with the PDF and the replay. So sorry, Avard, really great question, really important topic, but stay tuned for more on that, or check out our YouTube for an earlier presentation we did on that, I think in the fall, if you're hungry for that info. And I also wanted to say thank you, Scott, for plugging all our great marketing materials we churn out week in, week out, and over the years. So yeah, just thank you, Avard, for giving me the opportunity to plug that. Got a question here from Kai. And this is something I don't think I've actually ever thought about before, but hypothetically, if I follow your advice and have a super successful campaign and have profits, do I pay them back or consider them profits? So if there's an excess of funding, perhaps, how would you recommend someone deal with that? It's a bit of an ethical question, I guess.
Yeah, so this happened with the Lovecraft investigations. And I think it's really important to state what your plan is if that happens on your campaign page. And in what I would do is, with that kind of overwhelming support, I would promise to reinvest it in creating fantastic content across all my platforms and channels, and reinvest it into future projects. And I mean, like when I think of the Lovecraft investigations, like it was doubled in funding, and they then jumped into, I mentioned them before, BackerKit, which was a platform to offer rewards, and then they came up with new rewards to share. And so I think that continuing to build value will improve or grow these relationships with your backers. But it's a lot of responsibility, isn't it, when you have that much trust from people? I think that it means a lot, but it's also a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. I think transparency is a huge virtue of crowdfunding in general. So, and you don't necessarily need to launch your campaign with the big disclaimer at the end that says, if overfunded, here's what we'll do with the funds. But as your campaign is hopefully succeeding, and maybe you're getting to that point where you're in excess of your goal, you can maybe add something in there. That's an update you can make. It'll go out to all your backers. It's just again a way of saying, I appreciate your trust and belief in this project, and here's how we'll be dealing with this excess of funding. Also wanted to mention quick, because I don't know if we talked about it, but for some of those higher value tiers that you're going to create, you can often create quantities, very limited quantities of them. So if it's something really specific that you only want to do one of, or can reasonably, if it's $1,000 tier, let's say, that's very involved kind of experience, maybe you're a musician who's going to play like a private concert for someone, right? I've seen that happen for music-based projects. Maybe that's just a one and done kind of thing. I think where people can get into some issues with overfunding potentially is when there aren't caps on certain tiers, and you have a million ebooks that you need to send out, or something that's a hard cost that you need to fulfill. So keeping an eye on that quantity level too. Scarcity is also a great motivator for certain tiers too. So just wanted to mention that while it was top of mind. And you know what? I just talked our way to the end of the presentation here. So I apologize for that, but thank you everyone for being here and providing so many excellent questions. We have a few that we didn't get to, and as I mentioned, we'll be following up with you guys about that. Yeah, it's a huge topic. Again, be on the lookout for your email tomorrow with the replay, PDF, and the link to join our next training session on marketing. It kind of flows really nicely into each other given the topic for August. So that's enough for me. I'll throw it to Scott to sign us off here, and thanks again, everybody.
Yeah, one last time. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for being creative and creating this content and joining us here. And we look forward to chatting about it, helping you navigate this stuff.
Absolutely. All right. Until next time. See you soon. Bye now.